Speaker, I move that we recognize MP Engineer Don Mustafa Loong.
MP Don Loong is recognized.
Alhamdulillah, salamat sa lahat ng mga fellow MPs who are still with us here. I'd like to also thank MP Hamid Malik of the MNLF for speaking before me, as well as Matarul Estino of the MILF, who spoke before me as regards Sulu. I consider myself also coming from the MNLF and MILF, coming from the Cairo group of founders of the revolution. And I would like to give my thoughts and heart on this issue. I'd like to cover some aspects of the political, economic, social, and legal, as well as security implications of the Sulu exclusion from the Bangsamoro. The first page of the decision of the Supreme Court quoted the chief negotiator and our current minister that our country's only option right now, even in the future, is peace. But it must be accompanied by justice. Because peace is not only about the absence of fighting, it is more than that. Justice is needed. Unfortunately, that justice meant also the severing of Sulu from the Bangsamoro region. 10 years ago, Chair of the Bangsamoro Transition, Mohagar Iqbal, was in front of Congress, and he said that justice for all is the basis for sustainable peace and prosperity in the Bangsamoro. He went on to state that the root causes of the Moro rebellion are injustice to Moro identity, injustice to the Moro political sovereignty, and injustice to Moro integral development. Where did I get my right to speak as regards this issue? I'm not only from Sulu, and as I mentioned, I consider myself part of the MNLF and MILF, as my father was with Chairman Hashim Salamat, as well as late Bangsamoro Wali Sheikh Kalima Nandu in Cairo, where they dreamt that the Muslims in the Philippines be represented. They believed that a symbol and a political entity that represents the Bangsasug, the Tausug, the Maguindanao, the Maranao, in their quest for self-determination. They dreamt of that in the 1960s. My father did not dream of a purely Tausug group that could push for self-determination. He had colleagues like late MILF Chairman Hashim Salamat and late Abul Khair Alonto, and many more. They were from the different tribes, and a lot of his colleagues in the Batch 300 are still alive today. These three issues were what my father mentioned to me when I was young, that forced them to push for the revolution. Sulu, Basilan, Tawi-Tawi was still part of Sulu then, were relatively peaceful, but an observation then was that it did not represent our identity. It did not provide for integral development. It did not provide for our political sovereignty. And that is why they joined together and pushed for the quest for self-determination. We must remember that there were many batches, the batch 90, the batch 300. And if you look at the screen, in the batch 300, you see the Loongs of Alulayag in Parang Sulu. You see the Matbas of Tawi-Tawi that was still part of Sulu, part of Alulayag Sulu. The Salis, Governor Sali, Abdul Hassan Sali of Tawi-Tawi, we just come from one community because my father recruited them to join the revolution, to join and give their lives for an idea of self-determination where we had these three issues. The quest for justice in integral development, the quest for justice in political sovereignty, as well as in the identity. But if we look at it, Sulu has always been a victim of a struggle. Since the time of, I come from Luok, Sulu, in the 2nd district, and in Parang Sulu, in the 1st district. And in the 1st district, in the same barangay, in Camp Andres, where my mother grew up, was Commander Camlon. And for 7 years, he fought the government. 5,000 soldiers went to Luok, Sulu and tried to quell his rebellion, but they could not. And a study was made, led by Senator Domocao Olonto, to study what was the issue in the Mindanao problem. And one issue was that the Muslim Filipinos there did not believe that they were Muslim Filipinos, or rather Filipinos in general. They believed that they have a distinct identity. And number two, Camlon demanded that there should be a better university to educate the Muslims. Senator Domocao Olonto, who headed the hearing, ultimately came up with the MSU system. And since Sulu did not have land that time, the MSU system was established with a few hundred hectares of the MSU in Lanao del Sur. But the Mindanao problem came from Sulu. Hundreds of Tausugs died. But up to now, MSU Sulu still does not have fiscal autonomy and still does not have that good educational system. In the decision of the Supreme Court, they mentioned the Jabida massacre as the spark that started the modern revolution in the 60s and 70s. And those are mostly from Sulu and Tawi-Tawi, but actually they're all from Sulu because Tawi-Tawi and Sulu were one before. There was the burning of Jolo, the Battle of Jolo in 1974, which pushed for the Tripoli Agreement in 1976, signed by a Tausug, Chairman Miswari, and as well as the Vice Chairman of the MNLF before, Vice Chairman Hashim Salamat. A Tausug na Magindanawan signed the Tripoli Agreement in front of the OIC. We did have the final peace agreement signed again by Miswari, who's a Tausug. And we have the current Bangsamoro Organic Law, which also Tausugs are part of that agreement. We would like to emphasize that the Tausugs, as part of the 13 ethno-linguistic tribes, have been together with you in this journey for self-determination. We stood by you, we worked together, enduring the same struggles and heartaches. This exclusion of Sulu in the Bangsamoro threatens to rewrite the narrative, leaving out the vital identity and contributions of the Tausugs, creating a new story where the sense of being Moro is no longer shared. The welfare of the people, including the employees and their families, must also be considered. The employees affected have been studied by the Ministry of Finance, Budget and Management. And I thank the career executives of the Bangsamoro, like Minister Bides, Minister Laiha, Kapsek Asnin, and Director General Muhajirin Ali, who have been working day and night to study the implications of this Supreme Court decision. And the data now that we have is that around 7 billion or 9 billion of the budget in the Bangsamoro is allocated for Sulu. In the screen, it can be seen that 2.7 is for public works. And what is the implication of this? This public works is different from the national DPWH funded projects. Therefore, if Sulu will be removed from the Bangsamoro government, there will no longer be that 2.7 billion. Because it is only in the Bangsamoro region that we can actually fund local roads, that we could fund road to critical areas. Here we have 1.3 billion for health. If we remove the Sulu from the Bangsamoro, I'm afraid many of the district hospitals may no longer be supported. Even the integrated provincial hospital either may be funded by the province or would have to fight hook, line, and sinker with the national government to continue the funding. And it requires a lot, which is around 1.37 billion pesos. There are a lot of projects in Sulu that will be affected, and we hope that the leaders of Sulu, and we appreciate as the Tausug that we have seen the leaders of Sulu in the House of Representatives, in Malacanang and DBM, working on how these challenges can be addressed. But my privileged speech is calling on all parties, from the leaders of Sulu to the leaders of the Bangsamoro government, to the national government, to Congress and the Supreme Court, to look at this in the light of peace and justice. For personnel, we're looking at around 4.5 billion that is required in order to continue the same. But a lot of these agencies will no longer exist if Sulu is removed from the Bangsamoro. There are around 7,872 employees across agencies. I am stating this in this privileged speech so that we can have consistent data, and I think the national government needs this data. As a member of parliament, it is my mandate to inform the public as well as our leaders in Sulu of the current number of employees, and for us, fellow members of parliament, to be aware of the implications. We have 6,161 teachers. More than 750 of that are the ISAL teachers. We have from the MTIT, 18, and labor. But beyond this, when we talk about ISAL teachers are very unique in the Bangsamoro. We have Arabic teachers in the regular region. They have a salary, I think, of 4,000 to 6,000 pesos, and they teach Arabic in Zamboanga, in other regions. But in the Bangsamoro, because of our system, our block grant, our autonomy that was provided, we were able to establish the Islamic studies and Arabic language positions with a salary of 16,000 pesos a month, which provides them dignity equal to other teachers and which allows them to teach in the schools. Right now in Sulu, imagine, every day these Arabic teachers go to class. They teach them Arabic. They teach them about the Islamic principles, moral governance. And this is very important. Why? In the aspect of national security, one of the major recruitments of the Abu Sayyaf before were the young people, the high school, senior high school. Few Abu Sayyaf were the elderly. They were more of the young. And because they were indoctrinated by people with extreme perceptions. But the impact of 750 ISAL teachers allows for better orientation of the young Muslims in Sulu to understand our own faith, understand the Arabic language, so that they will be far from the negative influence of those with extreme perceptions. If Sulu is now outside of the Bangsamoro, how then do we sustain the 140 million pesos required to provide salary for 750 Arabic teachers and madrasa? This is a big loss for Sulu. And as a son of a revolutionary like many of you, I feel that the children of Sulu have earned this. This came from the blood, sweat, and tears of their elders and ancestors who fought. Many hundreds of the colleagues of my father who died during the revolution visualized this moments before their death, that their death was worthy enough because they were not just building a progressive community, but the core of a progressive community for the Bangsamoro is a community with strong faith in Islam and the young generation understanding their faith. So we hope, in case we proceed to the other region, then we hope that the national government can find a way to continue this. For health, we hope that the hundreds of employees who are now going back to Sulu, young, highly professional doctors, nurses who work in Manila and abroad are now back in Sulu serving their people. And now we pull the rug out of their feet, remove the dream of enjoying their homeland peaceful because of a decision that suddenly removed Sulu from the Bangsamoro. We may have agencies like the DILG that can just be converted. They might just have to be transferred. The environment, technology, fisheries, human settlements. These positions, we hope that all parties and all our dear respected elected leaders and elders here in the parliament can help address. So again, it's around 4.5 billion for PS with 7,800 positions. That is permanent positions. That excludes the job order positions. If around 7,800 is helping around 10 people, that's around almost 100,000 people whose everyday food, everyday tuition for their children is under question. So, ladies and gentlemen, what is our strategy to protect their jobs and ensure their future? How do we support them in this uncertain time? We also have operating expenses for our offices in Sulu. And we are thankful that the DBM secretary had mentioned that these programs can continue up to December 31 unless the decision of the Supreme Court is made final. And that made final is uncertain because it could be next month, it could be the month after. So we do hope that this MOE will also be continued, because I talked to many employees in Sulu and they said, can you tell us if we still have salary? Because if we don't have salary, then we should not serve anymore. There is a precarious situation. I thank my colleagues in the Bangsamoro for really pushing that they be paid their salaries up to the end of this year. Although they are asked to sign a waiver that in case the Commission on Audit requires that they return the money, then they should return the money. They are put in a precarious situation kasi, di ba halimbawa kung empleyado ka, papasok ka araw-araw hanggang December, tapos biglang lalabas ang disapproval ng Commission on Audit, ay kailangan mo palang isauli ang sweldo mo ng 4 na buwan. Una, nakagastos mo na yon, nakapakain mo na yon, paano mo isasauli? Pangalawa, where is justice? Pag ikaw naman ay nagserbisyo, araw-araw pumupunta sa opisina at bigla kang sabihan na kailangan mo palang ibalik. It is for this reason that I thank the DBM Secretary for giving clarity to this, but we hope that we can be provided black and white guidance from the DBM or Office of the President to provide legal cover for our beloved Chief Minister and all our ministers so that they can give what is due for the salaries, MOE of the employees in Sulu. The lost capital outlay in Sulu is staggering. As of now, we will be losing 9 billion in terms of PS and capital outlay, assuming that the national government can cover some of that. But what is clear na mahirap i-cover ng national government is that, una, yung sa public works. Because pag sa national roads lang ang pwede nating pondohan. It is only in the Bangsamoro because of the gains of the peace process and the block grant that we have 2.7 billion pesos for local roads and any infrastructure like multi-purpose buildings, the street lights. These are the gains of the peace process. This also includes the SDF, the 5 billion. So in summary, we do not only need to push for the salaries, we have to also look at the infrastructure development that Sulu might be losing, the healthcare and hospital services that may not be supported by the region or could not be supported by the provincial or municipal governments, the special programs for housing, hundreds of housing. This does not include the thousands of housing units under the office of the Chief Minister that is ongoing right now that will have to be stopped. The other programs for the preservation of culture. There is a 5 million funding in Sulu to study the Tausug culture, to study and document the history. It's only here in the Bangsamoro that we can have that kind of affirmative programs and actions. In the MPW, we have 1.4 billion for the Suluan, 2.6 billion in total for Sulu for this year alone. In the MOH, it's stated there that we have around 500 million, but actually in total around 1.3 billion. We have special programs for environment, of 37 million for Menre. In Mafar, we have 94 million for agriculture and agrarian reform programs. In the MHSD, we have 156 million. And what is great about the Bangsamoro housing program is that it's free. In the regular regions, you will have to apply for Pag-ibig. But here, the Pag-ibig of the Bangsamoro programs is that you're given the housing for free. And this is only in the Ministry of Housing and Human Settlement. But under the office of the Chief Minister, there are also thousands of housing that is intended for the the families of revolutionaries, poor people, the marginalized, and nowhere else in other region are these available. In the MBHTE, as I mentioned, I talked to one teacher. He said, you know, since almost 50 years ago, I have been here in Sulu, and I have seen the division office of Sulu. It looked like a classroom. It looked like a classroom for 45 years. However, it was only recently, 2 years ago, that suddenly the Bangsamoro funded the division office for almost 50 million, and now it is an office with dignity and pride. But it is only in that Bangsamoro, through the block grant, that we have this. We now have MOE for elementary high schools that is now present, if you'd see, with 279 million funding. We have a lot of programs for the madrasa. We have a lot of, even the Habsat. We saw the Habsat again for 100 years. Walang pag-iiba yung building niya. But since we assumed in 2019, now it has dozens of classrooms with a new building. Ganon din ang IPHO. Sabi ni Deputy Speaker Nabil Tan, for almost 100 years, hindi nag-iba yung provincial hospital, but we were able to upgrade it from 100 to 200 bed capacity. We have created the Maimbung Hospital. So the provincial hospital with around 400 million funding, and Maimbung Hospital with around 180 million funding. How do we find that in the national budget? But of course, I have strong faith and trust in all the leaders of the Bangsamoro, leaders of Sulu, leaders of the national government, that they can also consider this changes, that is the impact of the Supreme Court decision. We have a lot of social welfare and development programs unique to Sulu. From the name alone, Dakilang Bangsamoro, Kupkup program, support to end child labor. What is unique and great about the Bangsamoro government? In contrast to the autonomous region, to the ARM then, in the ARM then, there was no fiscal autonomy. There was no block grant. You could create a law in the ARM, but it will not be funded because you will have to ask it from the DBM. And for every nail, aircon, you will have to debate it with the House of Representatives and the Senate. But here in the Bangsamoro, we can think of programs and it can be funded. Unlad Pamilyang Bangsamoro. We hope that if Sulu will be in the DSWD Region 9, that these kinds of program worth 250 million every year for the next 5 to 10 years that Sulu is in another region will continue to be have, because these are addressing injustices. These are addressing the injustices that have historically happened, the injustice to the integral development of the Bangsamoro. Slowly, we're doing special programs for sports, special programs for transportation. Recently, the minister had just actually signed 24 million worth feasibility study for a Maimbung airport, which would have been done fast to improve the development in Sulu. We have 30 million also aligned for infrastructure of the airports in Sulu that will have to end there. And when we say that end there, that there will no longer be funding for that next year. And that is a big loss to the Tausugs, to the young generation, who might not understand about the peace process, who have grown already in the level of peace in Sulu. How about barangay halls? How many barangay halls have been built in the other region? I think it is rare that the national government will fund the barangay hall. Because when you go out to Zamboanga del Sur, del Norte, you don't see that kind of branding of barangay halls or municipal halls or multi-purpose halls in the Bangsamoro. Now, we are proud that even our markets have that distinct characteristic. And it is because of the peace process. These are the dividends of peace, and these are the fruits that came from the blood, tears, and sweat of our parents and elders. Therefore, all of us are entitled to its benefits. It improved governance. It improved our development. We stand to lose our collective identity. When the Supreme Court decision came out, children were singing the Bangsamoro hymn in Sulu. For 5 years, we have made them memorize the Bangsamoro hymn. And suddenly, you tell them, students, you no longer have to sing that. You have to forget that because we now belong to the region. How do you explain to the elementary students that suddenly you don't have to sing that and that you're not a Bangsamoro? Does that not create a post-traumatic syndrome of when you say Bangsamoro, ay, hindi na pala kami dyan? Because when I was growing up, pinahinto na yan. And therefore, it behooves upon the leaders of the Bangsamoro, it behooves upon each one of us to think about the implications of a simple Supreme Court decision, but have profound impact in the hopes and aspirations of thousands of people. 400 scholars from the MOST alone. Iba pa yung DepEd, iba pa yung MOLE. You're talking about thousands of scholars. When Camlon made the revolution, isang solution was yung National Integration Scholarship. Nung high school ako, papuntang UP, nag-apply ako ng NI Scholarship. Pagdating ko sa UP, sabi ng nanay ko, anak, asan na yung scholarship mo kasi wala tayong pera. Hindi na-submit yung pangalan ko. Pinuntahan namin yung teacher ko sa high school. Ma'am, ba't ka hindi nag-submit ng pangalan ni Don? Ay, si Don, loong naman yan. Hindi yan kailangan ng scholarship. Hindi naman po lahat ng loong ay may posisyon o mayaman o may negosyo. While my father graduated medicine from Cairo University and was working abroad, bigla, sabi ni Dr. Maman Amin, sabi niya, alam mo, tatay mo pumunta sa akin doon sa Saudi. Dok Maman, punta na ko ng Sabah. Magsisimula na ang revolusyon. From the comforts of working abroad, my father sacrificed his profession, went to Sabah, organized the revolution. He was offered by President Marcos to be an ambassador. He was offered to be the head of the Muslim Commission or OMA. He did not accept. Bakit? Sabi niya, sina Ustad Hasim, nasa bundok pa. Miswari, nasa bundok. Until his death, he never surrendered. And therefore, we grew hard up. It was a hard life for us. And that scholarship of 2,500 for me would have been valuable. 2,500. But then imagine now we are depriving thousands of students na tausug who are studying in Manila, Davao, Zamboanga, telling suddenly na, uy, hindi ka na pala entitled kasi the Bangsamoro government no longer includes the province of Sulu. Hindi na kayo Bangsamoro, so you are no longer entitled. Imagine if former Congressman Tupay, the chairman of the committee that fought for the Bangsamoro Organic Law, and former governor of Sulu, a stalwart fighter of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, were alive, he would come out in the streets and fight. If my father was alive, he'd come and fight. But they're no longer alive. They could no longer speak. Who else is left to speak? And that is why young people like me are forced to speak, although it might endanger my position, my life, or be open for criticism, but we must speak because we're speaking for the voiceless people and students who are deprived of the fruits of the labor of their forefathers. Each peso invested in a step towards progress are the building blocks for a stronger and resilient Sulu. each road built, every classroom enhanced, every hospital upgraded is an inch closer to the promise of the Bangsamoro. Where will we find the necessary funds to support these projects? Biyariin na in Rakyat. Although I am not blaming any leader, I'm not blaming the leaders of Sulu, nor any leaders of the region, nor the national government. It is the reality. Juralex sed lex, the law may be harsh, but it is still the law, but it is therefore incumbent upon us to do what we can in our own positions. So we hope that we can work together to address the fears of the employees. We hope that we can collectively work on the promise of the Bangsamoro for justice for all. Sulu had already improved from a 64% poverty to 14%, to include the contribution of the last few years of ARM and the Bangsamoro region in the past 5 years. Roads have been built, scholarships awarded, services extended. These are the contributions of the Bangsamoro government. The Bangsamoro had projected that Sulu needs 33 billion in order to complete its infrastructure needs. And in 5 years, Sulu was provided 6 billion. There's still some 27 billion needed. But if Sulu is no longer part of the Bangsamoro, then it will end with 6 billion. And it means that for the next 7 to 10 years, Sulu would have lost 27 billion in terms of infrastructure. How do you imagine that? What is the impact of that kind of infrastructure? Later, I will tell you. Here is the data that shows how Sulu is prioritized by the Bangsamoro. We have the 2 districts of Sulu having funding. And if you look at the funding per municipality in Sulu, you have Parang, 134 million, 150 million. This excludes 2024. In the current data of Minister Ed Guerra, if I'm not mistaken, it's almost $500 million investment per municipality for the past 5 years, including, I think, 2025. So technically, we're losing 500 million per municipality for the past 5 years and losing, therefore, around 20 billion of infrastructure in the next 5 to 7 years if we are no longer part of the Bangsamoro. Here we have data per municipality. And for a more summarized view, if you would look at it, out of all the provinces, Sulu has around 10 billion. It is the second most prioritized province in the Bangsamoro. Imagine that, at 10.1 billion. Pangatlo at pang-apat lang ang Mag Norte. At 10.1 billion in the first 4 years of the Bangsamoro, that will no longer continue. This is how it shows. For example, bakit ba nawala na yung Abu Sayyaf sa Sulu? I believe the good governance of the Sulu leaders, to include Governor Sakurtan, is one of the important aspects, the good governance. Pero tingin ko, nakatulong din ang infrastructure. Tingin ko, nakatulong din ang paggawa ng daan. We also credit the military with the establishment of the 6ID, but the data that is showing 5.71 billion of infrastructure sa Sulu in the past several years, wala pa yung last few years ng ARM, have contributed to development. Kung ayaw nyo pang maniwala that infrastructure investment contributes to peace, hindi ko na alam kung ano pa ang makakonbinsi sa atin. Luok has more than 500 million, Siasi and other areas. This is the contribution of the Bangsamoro government. For the past 5 years, almost 2,000 kilometers na ang nagawa ng Bangsamoro government. And you can imagine, baka mga 400 kilometers dyan or 300 ay nasa Sulu. Naging provincial administrator ako from 2004 to 2007. So alam ko ang sitwasyon ng local government. During that time, ARM was only giving 2 to 3 kilometers per year with a funding of 50 million dahil ang pondo niya was around 700 to 800 million lang per year. For the past, from 1990 to 2010, ang total funding for infrastructure ng ARM was only 10 billion. Ganun kaliit. 10 billion. Ngayon, ang dating 20 years sa ARM ay halos isang taon lang. Pero ngayon, every year, nasa 17 billion tayo per year ang BARM region sa infrastructure. Imagine that. Ang dati, kaya hindi umuunlad hindi maramdaman ang peace dividends sa ARM from 1990 to 2010 kasi ang infrastructure investment lang natin was around 500, 600 to 800 million for the entire region. Kaya isang probinsya, halos 50 million lang. Now we have 17 billion every year. Next year, 2025, baka 20 billion na yan. 26, 20 billion. Year 2027, 20 billion. At hindi nakasama ang taga-Sulu dyan. Sayang naman. Tingin ko mahirap hingin ito sa national government kasi yun nga ang additional aircon, additional na building sa national, napakahirap hingin. But of course, I have strong faith din. Kung wala na talaga magawa, I think the leaders of Sulu can fight it out because never has there been a time na sobrang lakas ng leaders of Sulu sa presidente, sa Congress, sa Senate, sa DBM. Inshallah, they will be able to push for that. However, ako ang nangihinayang kasi ang 2.5 billion ng 17 billion ay para sa mga tausog sana yan. Para sa mga anak ng mujahidin na namatay. Para sa mga tao nagsakripisyo ng kanilang buhay para sa peace process. Kung may naniniwala pa na walang relasyon ang infrastructure development sa peace or conflict, please watch these slides. In 1977, ganyan ang mga daan sa Sulu at nagkaroon ng conflict sa Sulu. Halos araw-araw ang gera. In 2002, ganyan, nung naging provincial administrator ako ng Sulu, halos ganyan lang ang mga roads, national road and provincial road. Kaya yung mga pula represents the conflicts. Nung nag-end ang term ni Governor Ben Loong, kakamatay lang ni Jan Jalani dyan sa Sulu, pero grabe pa rin ang conflict in 2007. Ang condition ng road, ganyan pa rin, 2009. Kaya ako, takot na takot ako pumunta ng Patikul. Delikado ang Maimbong, kahit parang yung Mangs Beach, swimming, dyan nagsiswimming yung mga Abu Sayyaf dati. In 2009, yung teachers na kidnap, delikado pa rin yung Sulu. And the infrastructure was still like that because how can you expect local governments to invest in 20 million when ang daming mga kailangan na i-develop sa mga communities? The national government, hindi rin nagbibigay. When my uncle was mayor in Parang Sulu in year 2000, pumupunta pa kami sa presidente para humingi ng project at binigyan siya ng 14 million for coffee. Ganun kahirap humingi ng 14 million na project in the year 2000. Maki-appointment ka, kailangan na matinding lobbying just for 14 million. In 2011, ganyan pa rin po ang mga daan natin. Halos hindi pa rin mapasok yung mga ibang lugar. In 2014, eto sa 2013, medyo nagsisimula na. May nagawa ng road dyan sa Maimbong. and Talipao. Sa 2015, medyo dumadami-dami na rin. 2016, mapansin nyo, parang dumadami na rin talaga. 2017, dumadami na yung mga local roads natin. 2018 and 2019, nung papasok na yung Bangsamoro, yan, part na yan ng Bangsamoro government. 2020, pumapasok na yung roads sa Patikul. 2021, 2022, and finally 2023. Imagine anong itsura niya nung before, actually nung signing ng CAB 2014, nagsimula na yung higher investment sa ARM pa lang. Pero ang contribution ng Bangsamoro is very clear. And we must acknowledge also that Governor Sakurtan had led the Balik Barangay program along with the ID para mapasok na yung mga communities dyan. And as a result, 1,000 former Abu Sayyaf had surrendered and now enjoying the fruits. And that's why peaceful na yung Sulu, because nakita na mga Abu Sayyaf, bakit ka pa pupunta sa bundok? Kaganda-ganda ng mga daan na. May mga street light ka pa. May Starlink ka pa. Ang mga Armalite, binebenta, pinambibili ng motor, pinambibili ng cellphone. Because the children, the young generation now enjoy Sulu. So these are the dividends of peace that Sulu is already enjoying. And if you still don't believe me na walang connection ang road infrastructure to peace, this is a color coding of how dangerous was Sulu before. In 2012, medyo pula at orange, showing the intensity of conflict and danger. Hanggang naging 2013, 2014, nagkaroon na ng konting daan. 2015, if you look at it, hanggang 2016 and 17, nagiging yellow na. Kumukonti na lang yung mga danger areas in Sulu. 2018, papasok na yan ang Bangsamoro government. If mapansin mo, konti na lang yung red areas because we continue the investment for infrastructure 2020 and 2021. And then, alhamdulillah, 2022 hanggang 2023, from red areas, Sulu is now all yellow as Abu Sayyaf free. If you look at that picture, kaya naman sobrang conflict affected ang Sulu is because wala tayong access. Yung mga tao cannot farm, yung mga communities, they cannot go to their communities because during that danger times, if you live 500 meters from the main road, pwede ka nang masuspect na Abu Sayyaf at pwede ka nang mabaril. Because usually, lalo na sa Patikul, in terms of hundreds of meters yung tinitingnan. But when we built hundreds of kilometers of roads, wala nang ganung concept. And now, the military is no longer enemy-centered, but they are people-centered. And it allows leaders in Sulu to be able to govern their areas better because of the partnership between the regional government, the partnership with the military na hindi na papalit-palit because of the ID, and of course the local leaders. And I would like to also appreciate, for example, Governor Sakurtan, who requires his mayors and barangay chairman to really live in their communities. And that is the good governance mechanism that also contributed to the benefits of Sulu right now. Kung ayaw nyo pa rin maniwala na may relasyon ang paggawa ng infrastructure to peace, then look at that heat map that comes from the security sector, showing na as we have built more roads, pakonti na yung red areas. This is the first time that this being presented to the public, and you won't be able to find that data anywhere else because that came from a study from my master's in National Security Administration, and It came from 10 hours of interviews from almost all the generals in Sulu this year. So our people have waited for generations, enduring hardships, and making countless sacrifices for these long-promised projects, only to see them fall short and potential unrealized kung matutuloy na yung pag-alis ng Sulu sa Bangsamoro. So moving forward, ano mga ba ang hinihingi natin or hinihingi ko personally because I cannot bring other people? Una, who will step up to carry the responsibility? Who will ensure that the sacrifices of the Mujahideen were not in vain? And hindi lang Mujahideen yung nag-sacrifice. Nung nagsunog yung Sulu, ang daming mga locals from Sulu, yung mga Inchik na displaced, yung mga locals from Sulu na punta ng ibang bansa. They too are stakeholders to this. Meaning, pati mga anak nila deserve the dividends of the 1970s and 60s revolution. Who will ensure that the sacrifices were not in vain and the hopes of our people are finally fulfilled? The stakes are too high to remain silent. And this is our last glimmer of hope, and we cling to it. And this is urgent because the lives of tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of Tausug are dependent on it. We hope that the Supreme Court can take cognizance of the operative fact doctrine, which is a crucial principle in safeguarding the rights and welfare of individuals when laws or government actions are declared unconstitutional or invalid. Ibig sabihin, may mga desisyon ng Supreme Court na nakita nila pag mag-decide sila ay napakalaki ng impact sa tao at community at mga karapatan ng mga tao, hindi nila ito ginagawang they make certain considerations in their decision. Kaya inaasahan natin sana kung may motion for reconsideration na sana in that aspect pwedeng makonsider ng Supreme Court. Anyway, ang decision ng Supreme Court out of the 99 pages on the constitutionality of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, 3 to 4 pages lang po ang nakalaan para sa pagsabi na hindi kasama ang Sulu. It could be elucidated further on many legal aspects. Bagamat hindi pa ako nakapag-bar ever, pero may legal background din ako. At these aspects of operative fact doctrine, yung na-mention ni Deputy Speaker Nabil Tan, na the environment had changed since 5 years na po. Natural systems po ang pinag-uusapan natin. Communities have converged. The people have benefited. And even the main proponent have expressed openly his intention to join the region merely shows the abandonment of that intention to separate Sulu. But then again, the Supreme Court is the supreme decision maker. We just hope that on matters of justice and equity, these things can be considered. The balance between upholding constitutional integrity and ensuring that the invalidation of a law does not unjustly harm those who operated it under its presumed validity. For instance, yung mga employees na nakatanggap na, hindi na natin pwedeng ipabalik ang kanilang sweldo kung nag-serve naman sila. In conclusion, we fought for our place in this movement. We deserve more than to be excluded at a table we helped build. Kasama po kami. Kasama po ang lahat ng pamilya ng MNLF. May MILF din sa Sulu. Kasama ng lahat ng mga naging biktima din. Yung mga collateral damage ng ating revolusyon. Kasama po sila. Kaya kasama po ang mga kabataan ng Sulu at mamamayan ng Sulu sa benefits of the Black Grant in the Bangsamoro. Let us not fall into the temptation of looking at the fiscal space or the 10 billion annually available for other areas. Or kasi, wala na ang Sulu. Wala na ang 1.2 billion for health. Baka naman may fiscal space na tayo to create more hospitals in other provinces in the Bangsamoro. Baka naman, wala na ang 7 district reps. Paghati-hatian na lang natin ito sa ibang mga probinsya. Yes, that can be done. But imagine a fallen comrade na nahulog sa dagat. Ang iisipin mo ba kaagad, kanino ba mapupunta yung kanyang backpack? Ano na mangyayari sa kanyang properties? Paghatian na lang natin. That is not what comrades do. Comrades immediately look at the emergency situation and try to help their comrade. In this case, ang Sulu po nahulog sa dagat. We have 2 options. Pick Sulu up back and bring back to the boat or ipalangoy siya doon sa isla. Whatever action we do, we must remember that the Tausugs will remember. In business partnership, when we share efforts, capital, towards a certain goal, we call it profit or dividends. In the collective struggle for self-determination, the Bangsamoro government is part of the dividends of peace born from the blood, sweat, and lives of more than 100,000 Bangsamoro, tens of thousands of which are the Tausugs or the Bangsasug of Sulu Archipelago. We cannot just decide that the present and future Tausugs of Sulu are no longer entitled to the profits of the struggle and the dividends of peace. Hindi porket, hindi na kayo kasama sa Bangsamoro government, hindi na kayo kasama sa Bangsamoro territory, wala na kayo dito. Kasama po sa inheritance ng mga Tausug, ng Bangsasug, ang dividends of peace ng Bangsamoro Block Grant and the other benefits that we have from this peace agreement. So, may I call on the Bangsamoro government or the government of the day to urgently file a bill that grants the Chief Minister the authority to continue the release of salaries, MOE, and capital outlay for all appropriated projects for 2024 if the Supreme Court decision takes full effect. Kasi sabi po ni Secretary ng DBM, ay hindi pa mag-effect yan hanggang final na. Pero kung final na, we hope that the government of the day can help as regards that. We also, I also urge the government of the day to discuss the recent Supreme Court decision with the President. Totoo, nandun na si Governor Sakur and the mayors with the President. Baka po kailangan din ng Chief Minister and the government of the day to dialogue with the President to, kung halimbawa, final ng decision, and then magkaroon ng compassionate transition plan para hindi naman biglaan, para yung livelihood, yung scholarship, yung development projects, ay hindi na lang basta-basta ititigil. Parang sasakyan lang yan. Pwede naman mag-break tayo para slow ang pagdating sa area. Kahit anong sasakyan, kahit 40 kilometers per hour, kung bigla mong ipapahinto, talagang halos fatal po ang epekto sa mga pasahero. I urge that the government of the day have a special session for the Intergovernmental Relations Body and create a special committee on the Sulu transition to work on cushioning the impact of the Supreme Court decision. Kasi isa rin itong magandang element ng Bangsamoro government ang may IGRB tayo na wala sa panahon ng ARM. Dito, nagkakaisa ang ministers ng Bangsamoro with the department secretaries ng national, kaya mas mapapadali ang pag-uusapan ng transition. I urge the Office of the President to issue an executive order, sana, or pwede ng DBM, basta may black and white sana, para covered po ang ating ministers. Hindi sila magdadalawang isip at pati na dun sa mga provincial offices na yung MOE, pati sana capital outlay, ipatuloy na rin. We ask for interagency task force sa IGRB to discuss the implications. And Above all, we implore that the Bangsamoro government, national government, Tausugs all over the world, Congress, do not leave us behind. Decades ago, we stood with you side by side, fought in our struggle since hundreds of years ago. Let us not change that narrative. We belong to 13 ethno-linguistic tribes. Tausugs, Maguindanao, Maranao, Yakan, Sama, Iranon, and many more. Yes, we have our individual history and struggles. Sulu just celebrated more than 630 years of self-governance. I just came from Tawi-Tawi that celebrated 51 years of the establishment of Tawi-Tawi. We are all Muslims in the Philippines. How do we distinguish ourselves from Muslims in Asia or the world? That is why we have the collective concept of Moro liberation. MILF and MNLF both fought under the concept of Moro liberation. Kung kasama sa MILF, kasama sa MNLF, pasok ang concept ng Bangsamoro and self-determination. While Sulu may be detached from the Bangsamoro government or the Bangsamoro territory, but we have struggled together for Moro liberation, and therefore we shall always be part of the Bangsamoro people. If we want the Tausugs of Sulu to still be part of the Bangsamoro, then let us do efforts to argue in the motion for reconsideration for Sulu to be retained. I understand that the Solicitor General had already been appointed, and we hope that he could work for the MR. If we fail there, then we start the transition to Region 9 or Palawan or whichever region. But some employees talked to me. He said, MP, pero kung mapatransition na kami sa Region 9 or ibang region, baka naman pwedeng wag nyo na kaming hilain. Imaginein mo, 3 taon mag-transition na naman sa Region 9 and then after 3 years mag-transition ulit sa Bangsamoro. Wag na. Kawawa naman kami. That will be torture for us. That will render us in double jeopardy and consistent disruption of their lives. 2019, they were disrupted. 2024, disrupted na naman. And another few years, disrupted na naman. Kaya, very important yung motion for reconsideration. Can we give our best? Kung kaya. Pero kung hindi na talaga, then we might have to face the reality that Sulu is not part of the Bangsamoro. May I urge for the status quo, because we will be depriving the present and next generation of the children of the Mujahideen and the people who have sacrificed the past 40 years. The communities deserve the roads with streetlights. The barangays deserve with the barangay halls, expanded hospitals, livelihood programs, and scholarship. For everyone, the road, the scholarship, the livelihood, the public buildings have been a blessing for Sulu. And if we remove Sulu, then the outcome of the blood, sweat, and tears of the Tausug, Mujahideen, and martyrs would have been lost. As regards national security, we have a concept that there are things that cannot be seen that we must protect. And it's called a referent object. It's a concept. Here, the situation involves national security. When we remove Sulu from the Bangsamoro, because it will alter the peace process, it will alter a generation, and it can spark again the start of violent conflict, because we will go back to injustice as regards integral development, injustice as regards political sovereignty, and injustice as regards the identity. Marami akong nakausap na former Abu Sayyaf na nag-surrender. Sabi niya, nag-surrender na kami kasi maganda na. May mga daan na, may mga street light na, may mga signal na. Nakatanggap kami ng 50,000, 20,000, pero sana meron pa ulit. Sana may paraan pa na makapaghanap buhay kami in our own ways. and that is 1,000 former Abu Sayyaf. I fear for the situation in Sulu years from now when we stop all this integral development, all this development suddenly, when our children lose their scholarship, when our children could no longer be fed every day, when all the street lights would have already lost its light, when the roads have ended, then the reason for violent conflict might again emerge in Sulu. We want the roots of the Moro rebellion to be addressed, the injustices to the Moro identity, the injustice to Moro political sovereignty, and the injustice to the Moro integral development to be addressed. And this have already been slowly addressed in the Bangsamoro government. And so, if ever Sulu is transferred to another region, we hope that these three things would still be addressed. Because if not, then we are preparing for another unrest that will start in Sulu and Mindanao and perhaps the rest of the country. We must unite towards justice for all the Bangsamoro. Otherwise, there will just be a disunited Bangsamoro without justice. Thank you, fellow members of parliament, for your time.